Today, myself and Maindeck's Jordan are going to be teaming up to bring you guys an exclusive Star Wars Unlimited preview card. Thank you so much, Fantasy Flight Games, for providing us this opportunity to show off this card to everybody. I hope you guys enjoy getting our thoughts on the game and our exclusive preview card called Repair. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Dan with Maindeck, and today I'm joined by my friend Jordan. How's it going, Jordan?
How's it going, everyone? It's going pretty all right. Getting over being sick a little bit, so if my voice sounds a little strange, that's why.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a rough go at it recently, but we're really happy to have you back on. And Jordan, I know you watched the How to Play video we just put out for Star Wars Unlimited, and you were messaging me saying, "Hey Dan, I'm excited about this game." So if you guys, by the way, out there haven't checked it out yet, we just released an ultimate How to Play Star Wars Unlimited video. It goes through everything you need to know to understand how to play Star Wars Unlimited, get your head around it, and that's going to be really helpful for you today, because what we are doing today, Jordan and I are actually going to take a look at an exclusive preview card that Fantasy Flight Games sent us to show off to you guys. And Jordan actually hasn't seen it yet at all. So we're going to do a little bit of a live reaction, which should be kind of fun. Just for a couple minutes before we jump into that, Jordan, I'd love to hear, what are you thinking about Star Wars Unlimited? What got you excited to the point where you had to message me and say, "Hey, this looks really good"? What are you thinking about it?
Well, when you first mentioned it was coming out, and you were super hyped. For those who don't know Dan, he's a big fan of the old Star Wars CCG. So the second they announced, he was like, "I'm already in, who's in with me?" And everyone's just kind of like, "Yeah, we'll check it out maybe." And I was probably the least likely to be excited. Not that I don't like Star Wars, it seems fine, but there's so many card games on my plate right now that I was just like, what are the chances it's going to have an actual like novel appeal? It'll play differently than what's already out there. And like, it's Star Wars is cool, but their previous card games have not been the most exciting for me. They, in the past, the dice one always has some sort of gimmick, and it didn't seem like it was a bad game. It's just I didn't want to have to, in addition to toting around a bunch of cards, tote around a bunch of dice and have them all separated. So I was just like, yeah, I'll wait to see. Maybe it'll be cool. The art actually was the first thing that hooked me, because I was like, ooh, I like this more like art it's new, it's fresh, but the style of the art is what I'd consider timeless. It's kind of like that older, like the original poster art that doesn't look like it's specifically from any era, and it looks nice, it looks crisp, it looks clean, and that opens up everything. And then of course when you said they're pulling from everything, like any Star Wars anything, whether Disney thinks it's canon or not, can potentially be a card. So I was like, all right, I'm digging it. So then of course the rules are what like bring it home for me. I was waiting on the rules. The rules are, like I said, it brings something novel to the table, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. It's different. It's not going to feel like everything else. I want to at least try it. I want to jump in.
What was the thing about the rules that made you feel like it was particularly unique?
I like the 2-lane system. I like having like the two kind of different battlefields, because there hasn't been a lot of card games or physical card games that do it. There's a few digital card games that do that, where they have like different lanes of play. And I like that because it opens up more meaningful choices. Sometimes you'll have strategic moments where you're like, I'm just going to sacrifice this and hope they don't notice like fast enough, so I can all in on this lane and blast through them or something like that. It just seems very interesting.
Yeah, I was actually pretty impressed. I watched the recent live stream that they did, where they went through the Quickstart rules, and we're talking a little bit about that. And they mentioned something that I had kind of guessed at a little bit just on our first preview cards, but I was really excited to hear that they actually decided to develop and stat the units differently depending on what arena they deploy in. So it's not just like, well, this guy goes in arena A, this guy goes in arena B. The sort of the relative stats of your units in each arena are going to feel a little different, which will just kind of help expand the feel and increase the depth a little bit of that whole mechanic, because, a set of stats on one unit for the cost are going to be different than another. So it's like, I can't remember. I think it's in space the stats are a little lower. and on ground they're a little higher, meaning that you can push all in on ground because obviously you're getting the most bang for your buck there, but then that means you're leaving space empty. So if someone goes all in on space instead, they're going to pay a little less, but it's kind of like a gamble, right? Where like they're going to pay a little more, for their stats, but you're not defending it, right? So I think that's super clever and exciting. And for me, the other thing, by the way, all of this is tying into our preview card, so just bear with me here. For me, the other thing that I really thought was interesting was, and this isn't like so novel, but it was the action system that really got me. The idea of one action, I take one action, you take one action. That's our whole turn sequence, rather than all my stuff, you do all your stuff.
Exactly. I maybe have a response. Yeah. I like that a lot too, because it reminded me of the back and forth gameplay of Panini Z or Score Z. Because I like that every action you do, I get an action back if I so choose, because then it makes the play more dynamic. Your agency of what you're going to play sometimes will then have to be less efficient because you have to prioritize certain things because you don't want your opponent to do something that would cancel out your big play. So it opens up each turn will be different actions based on what your opponent does. You're constantly having like this back and forth push and pull.
Yeah, and that was a major mechanic in Star Wars Destiny. Of course, as many of our viewers know, Destiny fans, that was a core thing in Destiny, but it was all about like when you activate to roll the dice, and then when you resolve the dice symbols, and like setting up your dice to have more efficient actions, but then you're messing with your opponent's dice and stuff. And that's very active here. And I love that you brought up the Score and Panini Dragon Ball Z game. Here at Maindeck, a lot of us played that game, the Panini version, quite a bit. I played the Score version, its original incarnation also. And I think we saw when Destiny came out, a number of prominent players from Score Z, or from Panini Z, I should say, were transitioning and playing some Destiny right away, because I think there was a pretty, it was a pretty straightforward kind of transition from one system to the other, because they had a very similar flow of combat, more or less. And I think this will actually, if you were a fan of those, this game will actually work even better than Destiny did, because like you mentioned earlier, whether you like the dice gimmick or you dislike the dice gimmick, there was a dice thing tacked on to it, which just introduced like a new point for people to go, well, I like the idea of the game, but I'm not sure I want to deal with the dice or roll the dice, or I don't like the randomness, or, there's, I'm not saying any of that's like objectively the case or anything, but it's a point where people can find something to push them out of it, right? And that's the cool thing about Unlimited. It's a pure card game. If you like card games, you don't have any of those, like that extraneous thing on top that might push you out of it. So with that in mind, the actions and the zones, the arenas, I should say. Jordan, I think it's time we take a look at our preview card, show the people what they came for. Okay. So what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and open it up here, and then I will display it on the screen for everyone right now.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Classic.
Yes.
Not too complicated.
Yep. So this is Repair. Repair is a blue or a vigilance, I should say, one resource cost event with the supply keyword for whatever that matters, the supply trait. And it says heal 3 damage from a unit or base. So like Jordan, like you said, this I think this first batch of spoilers everybody's getting are very straightforward. They're very, they're common cards in the set that are just going to be sort of basic in functionality. I think what's interesting about this card, and I'm excited to hear what you think about this, is that I think a lot of people who played Magic the Gathering will compare this to something like Healing Salve, which was not considered a very playable card, because it was an instant that either healed 3 damage on you or prevented 3 damage to a unit, to a creature. So it had to be played, in response to something to stop it from dealing damage. In Magic the Gathering, one of the big differences between that and this is that your damage on your units heals after every turn. In Star Wars Unlimited, that doesn't happen. Star Wars Unlimited also has a different stat loadout in general, not only between space and ground, but just like we have units that give you way more HP in this game, way more HP than they would in Magic for the same cost. And there seems to be some interesting use of units with Sentinel to stop your opponent from dealing damage to you. They have to redirect damage to this thing with like a big HP and a Sentinel body.
That's what I was going to say. Not only the Sentinel thing, but just in general, you choose what you target. Unlike Magic, where the defender gets to decide when you're going to deal damage to something important. In this game, they can just be like, I'm all inning this one thing, and there's not a whole lot you can say outside of something like repair now, where you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to repair it. Since you get the back and forth action, they would have to attack once, and then you heal it back, and then they're like, well now what am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly. I think where this card now, I mean, like, I'm gonna be straight up with everyone. I'm not like gonna be like, wow, this is the most mind-blowing card of all time, because it's not. But I do think this is a card for a few reasons that you can consider in any blue deck. Note it doesn't have heroism or villainy, so it can go in any blue deck that you're playing. Whether you're playing like some kind of blue Darth Vader or Palpatine or Luke Skywalker or whatever whatever you end up building. It can go in any deck because number one, if it's a useless card, you can resource it. It's always that. That's always an option in this game, which is again different than Magic the Gathering, where that healing salve would be taking up the spot of a card that, does something, and your lands are already their own thing. In this game, if it wasn't a useful time for it, you just resource it. Boom, easy. You can do that right after you draw your 2 cards in the regroup phase. Put the resource down. You don't have to worry about it. But there are times where I think this can be really clutch. Like you said, Jordan, you have something out there with a high HP and your opponent's like, well, I got to get rid of this thing. Maybe they have to because it has Sentinel. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just want to get rid of it because it's, it's good. And they start with 1 attack on it that does like 3 damage. And you're like, okay, I'm going to repair it. And now they've wasted that attack. They could attack again and then try and like finish it off next turn, but I don't know, maybe you'll get it. Maybe you'll take the initiative and then have a repair again, and you'll just like keep chaining these and stop your opponent from like doing anything useful.
Yeah, and it's when your hero flips, is it considered a unit at that point? So you could use it on, because heroes have a stacked stat line and generally a good ability too. So like this could be a clutch save for an extra turn, an extra use of your hero before they get reflipped.
I think that is a really good point to bring up. Yes, your heroes are a unit, complete like regular unit. You put Luke Skywalker out there, your opponent's probably going to be immediately going, well, I got to take this thing out. We've seen events so far like Vanquish that destroy or that defeat non-leader units, so that won't help you here. You and your opponent is probably going to have to find, if they don't have the right event card in their hand that just like aces it, they're going to have to do something, because otherwise they have huge stat lines and they're doing, like Luke, I think, shields something every time he attacks or whatever. And it's going to compound on your opponent. And that, you're right, that's exactly when, if you have that repair, you can just like completely save Luke. Or in a worst case scenario, your opponent goes, well, okay, I'm not going to deal with Luke, whatever, I'm just going to aggro your base. I mean, you can potentially just save a turn here in the end of the game, surprise your opponent with repair, steal the initiative, and then like win the game on the next turn before they can take you out. It's a possibility too, I think.
Yeah, and another thing that I wanted to mention about why I was also excited about the game is because there's, to my knowledge, unless there's a rule that they add later, or maybe I missed it in the video, which I don't think I did, there's no restrictions. I'm just going to call them colors. But there's no color restriction in this game. So even though this is a blue vigilance, whichever you want to refer it by, you can play it in any deck. It's just, if you don't have that vigilance icon on either your leader or your base, it just costs 2 more for every symbol you don't have. So, I mean, 3 is kind of a steep cost to heal 3, but if healing 3 means you now get to win because your hero's going to be able to slam their base, or healing 3, like you said, saves your base 1 more turn, that could definitely be worth 3. So
yeah, I feel like you're not wrong at all. I mean, you have the rules completely right, by the way. I feel like this isn't going to quite be the event that you're going to be slamming in off color into things. I mean, like maybe like really metagame dependent, like if there's just some like very particular removal spell or something you expect to see it all the time, and it like this just happens to like kind of counter how that would operate. That's the scenario where I could see like this becoming useful, but to even splash. But I do think that the big thing about the color system is that really, so there's like 6 aspects in the game. So I tried to hold up 6. Here we go. 6 aspects in the game. But it's really more like 4 with 2 alignments, because your every deck's going to either be heroism or villainy, based on the character. And then there's blue, red, green, and yellow. And you're going to have 2 of those, right? So I think blue decks in general are going to probably be fairly common. Like probably about like half the game's going to just have like blue decks. And so it's going to be pretty easy to slam this into anything without that heroism or villainy restriction. And if it was really important, you can you play a blue base with whichever leader you actually care about playing, and you can fit it in. I'm sure there'll be a ton of other, obviously good blue cards that you'd want to play. So, I think I consider this kind of a card that I would have. This is not like my immediate, like I slam 3 copies in every deck in this game, right? But it's the card where it's like, it's on my short list of like, as I'm filling out the deck, this may be a card that I go, a couple of copies of this because, they're going to try and target my leader, and keeping my leader alive is important. And I have these other like sentinel things. A couple of copies of this actually might go the distance. And that's where I think the card's at.
Yeah. I just mentioned the off play also because I'm in the headspace of what they could do with the design. Because like you said, there's only the 4 symbols and the 2 alignments, but I'm thinking all the different stuff they could do design-wise. I'm assuming you have the assumption in your head that like, oh, there's going to be something similar to the starters. But what if, I'm just going to throw this out there, what if they just print a base that has no symbols, but it has some extra ability or has like 50 health or something? So you're sacrificing that flexibility for more stuff. So they could do stuff like that, or maybe there's a hero that just has an alignment and no thing, and like same thing, it has like abilities or stat lines to adjust it, something like that. I was thinking, because that's one of the reasons that got me excited too, is from like a deck builder perspective, all the different knobs they can tweak on all the like, even just the things that decide what your deck is going to be, could be vast, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and Jordan, that's why I like bringing you onto these, because just like young Skywalker, you're always looking to the horizon on what could be and what could be coming. I'm a little more focused on what's right here, in front of my nose, but that's all good. We got the 2 different perspectives there. Something interesting to think about. I do think the design of this game opens up a lot of opportunity for interesting cards. I think Repair is obviously on its face not the most interesting, innovative design or anything, but it does show in the sort of the framework of the game how this interacts a little more differently than you're thinking of, because of that action system going back and forth, and because of the damage, being counters on things and not clearing at the end of turn. It's a card where I think a lot of people look at it right away and go, yeah, whatever. But I think it's got a little more juice in it. I don't think it's a mind-blowing card, but a little more juice than you might think it had. So,
yeah, for sure.
Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today. We're gonna end this preview here before we get too long-winded. I think we will have some more previews at some point. I can't promise that, but I think that might be coming. So definitely stay tuned. If you are enjoying Star Wars Unlimited content, we're going to be pushing out some more content going forward. Now, the big thing about us here is that I don't really do the whole like speculate videos thing. It's totally cool if you like doing the speculate videos, but I'm not going to sit here and guess at like what Emperor Palpatine might do. That's not going to be like the kind of video that we do here. So when we have more info to talk about, we will be posting more videos. If you like Star Wars Unlimited and other TCGs, of course, make sure you are subscribed to Maindeck, because we're going to be popping out videos every week. We pop out 1 to 3 videos. I'm trying to aim for 3, but we get a little delayed, and sometimes my videos take a lot of editing too. So we're pumping out more videos for Unlimited, as well as our other great card games we enjoy, like Grand Archive and Universes and all sorts of stuff. So a little sub there will make sure you don't miss when we post this content. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, give it a like. I would appreciate that. It helps us get seen and helps us show Star Wars Unlimited to more people, which is the big thing here. We want to help grow this player base for this game as it is heading towards the launch in 2024. So thank you guys so much for watching today. That's going to do it for our preview video, and we will see you in the next one.
Goodbye.
Thanks for watching another Maindeck video. You can support Maindeck by shopping at tcgplayer.com using our affiliate link. Check the description of the video for details. Maindeck is sponsored by JDubs Sports Cards and Gaming. Visit jwwcards.com. And by our amazing patrons. get exclusive content and other cool perks on the Maindeck Patreon. And hey, while you're here, I bet you'd like one of these videos. Go ahead, click one. I know you're gonna love it.